Ryan Carter stood in line with 20 other new cadets, but he was the only one who had to breathe from an oxygen mask. The air on Station Ecliptus was a mix that worked for most galactic species, but was too thin for humans. Ryan tried not to fidget as the massive blue-skinned alien instructor walked down the line, inspecting each new arrival. The instructor stopped in front of Ryan, yellow eyes narrowing. "A human. We haven't had one of your kind in the academy for 11 cycles." The alien's translator made his voice sound like gravel in a metal can. His name badge read Commander Drez in Universal Script. "I am surprised they accepted your application, Cadet Carter." Ryan stood taller, fighting the urge to step back from the 7-foot alien. "Thank you for the opportunity, Commander." Snickers rippled through the line of alien cadets. A bulky reptilian cadet with scale ridges running down his arms muttered something that made his neighbors laugh harder. Commander Dress silenced them with a sharp gesture. "Squad assignments are on your datapads. Get settled in your quarters. Training begins at 600 station time." He fixed Ryan with one last doubtful look before walking away. Ryan checked his datapad and found his assignment. Squad 17, Dormitory Block C. He grabbed his single duffel bag and followed the floating directional lights through the station's curved hallways. The artificial gravity felt slightly stronger than Earth's, making his steps heavier. When he reached Dormitory Block C, the door slid open to reveal 4 aliens already inside, arranging their belongings. They all stopped to stare at him. "You must be lost, human," said a creature with 6 arms and metallic blue skin. "This is military housing, not the civilian sector." Ryan checked his datapad again. Squad 17. "I'm Ryan Carter, your new squad mate." The silence that followed was broken by a rumbling laugh from the largest alien, a red-skinned giant with bony plates covering his shoulders and back. "They sent us a human. Is this some kind of joke?" The red alien looked at the others. "Krell doesn't find this funny." A slender, almost translucent female alien with glowing white eyes approached Ryan. Her movements were fluid, like she was floating rather than walking. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice melodic. "The angry one is Krell. The blue one with 6 arms is Zarx. And the silent one in the corner is Vex." Vex, a silicon-based life form that looked like animated crystal, merely nodded. "Humans are fragile," Zark said, crossing his middle pair of arms. "No offense, but you won't last through basic training. The washout rate for non-adapted species is 93%. Ryan set his bag down on the only empty bunk. "I'll take my chances." Krell laughed again. "You won't be saying that after your first gravity endurance test, or your first training session in the methane chambers." Ryan unzipped his bag and pulled out a small wooden box, the only personal item he had brought from Earth. It contained a simple metal compass that had belonged to his grandfather, who had been one of the first human explorers to make contact with the Galactic Alliance. "What's that primitive device?" Zarx asked, now curious despite himself. "A compass. It helps you find your way when you're lost," Ryan explained, placing it carefully on the small shelf next to his bunk. "We have neural navigators for that." Vex spoke for the first time, voice sounding like chimes in the wind. Ryan shrugged. Sometimes old technology still works when the new stuff fails. Their conversation was interrupted by a loud alarm. The room's lighting shifted to a pulsing blue. "That's the assembly call," Lyra said. "All new cadets must report to the Grand Hall for orientation." As they filed out, Ryan noticed Lyra studying him with what seemed like genuine curiosity, rather than the dismissal he felt from the others. "You're the first human I've met," she said quietly. "Is it true that your species survived 3 extinction-level events on your homeworld before achieving space travel?" "4, actually," Ryan replied with a small smile. For a brief moment, Lyra's expression changed to something that might have been respect. Then she turned and followed the others. Ryan took a deep breath through his oxygen mask and squared his shoulders. He had a lot to prove. And this was just the beginning. Ryan's muscles burned as he struggled to complete his 20th pull-up. The training room's gravity was set to 1.3 times Earth normal, and he was already falling behind the other cadets. Krell had finished 50 pull-ups and was watching Ryan with a mixture of amusement and pity. "Perhaps humans should train in the juvenile section," said a tall, scaled alien with gleaming black eyes. This was Cadet Vorn, from the feared Dracarian species known for their natural armor and aggressive temperament. "Look at him struggle with the basic exercises." The other aliens laughed, and Ryan felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. He forced himself to complete 3 more pull-ups before his arms gave out. "That's enough," barked drill instructor Maxis. "Carter, your physical performance is unacceptable. You're bringing down Squad 17's overall rating." Ryan nodded, too winded to speak. The artificial atmosphere in the training room had lower oxygen levels to accommodate the majority of species, forcing him to take quick, shallow breaths. "Not your fault," Lyra said quietly as they moved to the next station. The Academy's physical standards were designed for species stronger than humans. "Thanks," Ryan managed to say, still catching his breath. The next exercise was a reflex test. Cadets stood in a circle while small floating drones fired harmless light beams that registered as hits on their training uniforms. The goal was to dodge as many beams as possible in 60 seconds. When Ryan's turn came, he stepped into the circle with low expectations. The drones activated, zipping through the air around him. To his surprise, he found he could predict their movements better than he expected. While the beams still hit him, he avoided more than anyone thought possible. "Interesting," said Commander Drez, who had been observing from the sidelines. "Your reflexes are adequate, Cadet Carter." It wasn't much praise, but Ryan would take it. After training, Ryan sat alone in the mess hall, the special human-compatible food paste tasting bland and artificial. A tray clattered down across from him, and he looked up to see a young woman with dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun. "You're the new human cadet everyone's talking about," she said, sitting down. "I'm Kate Martinez. Been here a year now." Ryan stared in shock at seeing another human. "There are more of us here." Kate smiled. "Just 3, including you. The others are in advanced training off-station." She lowered her voice. "First month is the hardest. They're testing to see if you'll break." "I'm already failing," Ryan admitted. "Can't keep up with the physical requirements." "That's what they expect," Kate said, leaning forward. "But humans have advantages they don't understand yet. We adapt faster. We think differently." She tapped her temple. "When combat simulations start next week, that's where you'll shine." As they talked, Ryan noticed a group of cadets led by Vorn watching them from across the room. "Vorn's trouble," Kate warned, following his gaze. "Top of his class and hates humans. His ancestor lost some ancient battle to Earth forces centuries ago. Family grudge." Ryan was about to respond when his squadmate Zarks approached their table. "Squad meeting in 5 minutes," Zarks announced, all 6 arms moving in different patterns as he spoke. "Combat simulator briefing." After Zarks left, Kate gave Ryan an encouraging smile. "Remember what I said. The simulators are where everything changes." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. The environmental settings in the dormitory were optimized for his alien squadmates. Too warm for human comfort. He took out his grandfather's compass, watching the needle swing slowly toward the station's artificial magnetic north. "Why do you stare at that primitive device?" Vex asked from his crystalline resting platform. "It reminds me why I'm here," Ryan replied. "My grandfather believed humans belonged among the stars, as equals. Equality must be earned," Vex said, his crystal form glowing softly in the dim light. "Then I'll earn it," Ryan said, closing the compass and placing it back in its box. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time since arriving, Ryan felt a small spark of hope. If Kate was right about the combat simulations, he might have a chance to prove himself after all. Ryan stood in the simulator chamber, a circular room with dark walls covered in sensor nodes. The neural interface helmet felt heavy on his head. Around him, 20 other cadets were preparing for their first combat simulation, including his squad mates who still looked at him with doubt. "Remember," Instructor Janek said, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence, "the simulator will create a battlefield in your mind. Your body stays here, but you will feel everything as if it were real." Ryan adjusted his helmet. Kate had told him the simulations were intense but wouldn't cause actual physical harm. Still, his heart raced. Today's scenario: urban combat, squad versus squad. Your objective is to capture the enemy command post. Begin. The world dissolved around Ryan. When his vision cleared, he found himself in a ruined city with strange architecture. Tall, curved buildings leaned at impossible angles. The sky was orange, and 2 moons hung low on the horizon. "Squad 17, form up," Krell barked. As squad leader, he took command naturally. Standard approach pattern: Zarks and Vex on the flanks. Lyra in the center for telepathic relay. Human, stay back and try not to get killed. Ryan wanted to object, but knew Krell was making a logical choice. In physical combat, Ryan was their weakest link. The squad moved through the ruins, tracking the enemy position on their tactical displays. Ryan hung back as ordered but kept his eyes moving, studying the environment. Something about the terrain triggered a memory from his studies of classic Earth military history. When the first attack came, it was swift and brutal. Enemy fire pinned down Krell and Zarks, while Vex's crystalline form made him too visible to advance. Lyra maintained their telepathic link, but couldn't spot the hidden enemy positions. "We're trapped," Krell growled. "They have superior positioning." Ryan studied the tactical display, then the surrounding buildings. "No, they don't," he said quietly. Then louder, "No, they don't. The terrain works against them if we use it right." "What are you talking about, human?" Zarks asked, all 6 arms clutching his weapon tightly. "This layout, it's similar to something from Earth history. Urban combat in Stalingrad," Ryan explained quickly. "Their formation has a weakness. If we split into pairs and use these drainage channels, we can flank them from 3 directions." The aliens stared at him. "It won't work," Krell said dismissively. "It might," Lyra countered, her white eyes glowing as she sensed the positions of their enemies. "Their telepaths are focused forward. Their flanks are vulnerable." Krell hesitated, then nodded grudgingly. "Fine. We try the humans' plan." They split up as Ryan suggested. He paired with Lyra, navigating through narrow channels between the buildings. Following his directions, they emerged behind the enemy position. The coordinated attack caught their opponents completely by surprise. Within minutes, Squad 17 had overrun the enemy command post. The simulation ended, and the virtual world faded away. As the cadets removed their helmets, shocked murmurs filled the room. The scoreboard showed Squad 17 had completed the objective in record time with minimal casualties. Commander Drez entered the simulation chamber, looking at the scores with narrowed eyes. "Squad 17, explain your tactics." All eyes turned to Ryan. "It was Carter's plan, sir," Lyra said before anyone else could speak. Commander Drez's expression was unreadable. "Interesting. Perhaps human unpredictability has some value after all." He turned to leave, then paused. "Or perhaps it was beginner's luck. We shall see in the next simulation." After the commander left, Ryan's squad mates looked at him differently. Not with respect yet, but with curiosity. "How did you know that would work?" Zarks asked. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years," Ryan explained. "We've learned a lot about using terrain to overcome stronger opponents." Later, in the Academy archives, Ryan searched for information about humans in galactic history. Most records were restricted, but one file caught his attention. Human Combat Doctrine. Threat Assessment. The file was mostly redacted, but one line stood out. Despite physical limitations, human adaptive tactics proved decisive in the Orion conflict. Recommend caution in future engagements. Ryan stared at the screen. There was more to humanity's galactic history than he'd been taught, and perhaps more to his own potential than anyone at the Academy believed. Word spread quickly through the Academy about Squad 17's unexpected success in the combat simulator. Ryan noticed the changed looks he received in the corridors, some curious, some disbelieving, and some hostile. None more hostile than Vorn, who watched Ryan with cold black eyes whenever they crossed paths. After 3 more successful simulations, Ryan's confidence grew. His squadmates no longer dismissed his tactical suggestions, though Krell still grumbled about having to follow a human's advice. Ryan was eating lunch with Kate when Vorn approached their table, flanked by his Drakarian friends. "Carter," Vorn said, his scaled skin catching the light. "Your simulation scores are surprisingly good for a human." Ryan nodded cautiously. "Thank you." "But simulations are programmed scenarios," Vorn continued. "I wonder how you would fare against a real opponent." The Drakarian leaned forward. "I challenge you to a one-on-one combat simulation. 3 days from now, in the main arena." The mess hall went silent. One-on-one challenges were rare and usually only issued between top-ranked cadets. "That's unfair," Kate protested. "Vorn's been in advanced combat training for 2 years." Vorn smiled, showing pointed teeth. "Are humans too weak to accept challenges? Perhaps your species should remain on your little planet, where it's safe." Ryan knew he should decline. Vorn was physically stronger, more experienced, and had natural armor. But declining would confirm every negative belief about humans at the Academy. "I accept," Ryan said quietly. Vorn's smile widened. "Excellent. The whole Academy will be watching." He walked away, his friends laughing. "Are you crazy?" Kate asked when they were alone. "Vorn hasn't lost a single one-on-one match." "I don't have a choice," Ryan replied. "If I refuse, I might as well quit the Academy." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He slipped out of the dormitory and went to the simulator room. It was empty this late. He accessed the Academy database and pulled up all available records of Drakarian combat tactics. He practiced until dawn, running simulations against virtual Drakarian opponents. By morning, his eyes were red from lack of sleep, but he had noticed something important: a pattern in how Drakarians moved. Their heavy natural armor made them slightly slower to turn left than right. Over the next 2 days, Ryan trained constantly. Kate helped him prepare, playing the role of a Drakarian opponent, while Ryan practiced exploiting the small weakness he had discovered. "Your squad placed bets on the match," Kate told him during a break. "Most bet against you." "Most?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Lyra bet on you," Kate said with a smile. "She says she can sense something in you that others can't see yet." The night before the challenge, Commander Drez summoned Ryan to his office. "Cadet Carter," the commander said, studying Ryan with his yellow eyes. "You realize that tomorrow's challenge is more than a simple training exercise. Vorn has made sure the entire Academy knows about it. Every instructor, every cadet will be watching." "Yes, sir," Ryan replied. "You could withdraw," Drez suggested. "No one would blame a human for avoiding combat with a Drakarian." Ryan straightened his shoulders. "With respect, sir, they would. And I would." Drez was silent for a moment. "Your species has always been stubborn." He turned to his console. "Did you know humans were once feared warriors in this galaxy?" Ryan was surprised by the question. "No, sir. Most records about humans in galactic history are restricted." "For good reason," Drez said cryptically. "Dismissed, Cadet." Ryan lay awake that night, turning the commander's words over in his mind. What had humans done in the past that warranted restricted records? He clutched his grandfather's compass, drawing strength from it. Morning came too quickly. Ryan suited up in simulation gear and walked to the main arena. Hundreds of cadets and instructors filled the viewing stands. At the center of the arena stood Vorn, already in his gear, looking confident and dangerous. Ryan took a deep breath. It was time to show everyone what a human could do. The simulation arena transformed into a rocky landscape with sparse vegetation and steep cliffs. Ryan found himself at one end, while Vorn stood at the other. A holographic countdown hovered in the sky between them. The crowd's voices faded as Ryan's neural interface connected him fully to the simulation. This would feel real in every way, though no physical harm would come to either Cadet. When the countdown reached 0, Vorn charged. His powerful Dracarian legs pushed him forward with surprising speed. Ryan dodged sideways, barely avoiding the first attack. "Run all you want, human," Vorn taunted. "You can't avoid me forever." Ryan didn't waste breath on a reply. His plan required patience and careful observation. The battle scoreboard floated above the arena, showing their status. Vorn was at 100% strength. Ryan was already down to 95% from a glancing blow. For the next 5 minutes, Ryan kept his distance, studying Vorn's movements and attack patterns. The Dracarian grew more aggressive with each missed strike, his movements becoming more predictable. "Stop running and fight," Vorn roared. In the viewing stands, cadets began to laugh. "The human is just stalling," someone said. "He knows he can't win." Kate watched anxiously from her seat. "Come on, Ryan," she whispered. "Show them what you found." Ryan was waiting for the right moment. Each time Vorn attacked, Ryan noted how the Dracarian's heavy armored plates limited his flexibility. There was a pattern to his movements, exactly what Ryan had discovered during his late-night research. When Ryan's score dropped to 82%, he finally saw his chance. Vorn had backed him toward a cliff edge, thinking Ryan was trapped. "Nowhere left to run," Vorn said, moving in for the final attack. But Ryan wasn't trapped. He had led Vorn here deliberately. As the Dracarian lunged, Ryan dropped to the ground and rolled to Vorn's left side, the direction where the alien's armor made him slower to turn. Ryan struck 3 precise points on Vorn's body where the natural armor plates connected. They weren't weak spots exactly, but they limited mobility when hit in the correct sequence. Vorn stumbled, surprised by the effective counterattack. His score dropped to 90%. "Lucky hit," Vorn growled. "Not luck," Ryan replied, now circling to Vorn's left side again. "Just observation." The crowd grew quiet as Ryan continued to exploit the pattern he had discovered. He couldn't match Vorn's strength, but he could use the Dracarian's own momentum and the terrain to his advantage. Ryan lured Vorn up a rocky slope, then quickly changed direction, causing the heavier alien to lose his footing. As Vorn stumbled, Ryan struck again, precise, targeted hits that weren't powerful but were strategically perfect. The scoreboard updated. Vorn 72%, Ryan 79%. For the first time, murmurs of surprise rippled through the audience. The human was actually winning. Vorn's frustration made him reckless. He charged again, but Ryan was ready. He sidestepped and used the terrain to trip his opponent. As Vorn fell, Ryan struck a combination of pressure points that were particularly effective against Dracarian physiology, information he had learned from the Academy's xenobiology database. The scoreboard flashed. Vorn 45%, Ryan 75%. The arena fell completely silent. Even Commander Drez leaned forward in his seat, eyes fixed on the battle. Vorn rose to his feet, rage evident in his movements. "How is this possible? You're just a human." Ryan didn't respond. He needed all his focus for the final phase of his plan. He backed toward a narrow ravine, seemingly trapped once more. Vorn charged, certain of victory this time, but Ryan had calculated the angle perfectly. At the last possible second, he dropped and rolled under Vorn's extended arms, causing the Dracarian to crash into the ravine ball. As Vorn struggled to turn in the confined space, Ryan delivered the final series of strikes. The simulation ended with a loud tone. The scoreboard displayed the final result. Vorn 28%, Ryan 70%. Victory, Cadet Ryan Carter. The silence in the arena was deafening. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a single pair of hands began to clap. Others joined in until the sound filled the entire arena. Ryan removed his simulation helmet to see hundreds of stunned faces, and for the first time, something that looked like respect in their eyes. Everything changed after the match. Ryan walked into the mess hall the next morning to find cadets making space for him, some even nodding in greeting. His victory over Vorn had transformed him from an oddity to someone worthy of attention. "The hero arrives," Kate said with a smile as Ryan sat beside her. "Have you checked the Academy rankings?" Ryan shook his head. "No, why?" "You jumped 83 places. You're now ranked in the top 100 cadets." Kate showed him her data pad. "And look at the combat simulation scores." Ryan stared at the screen. His battle scores from the match with Vorn were the highest recorded by any first-year cadet in the past 5 years. "It's just one match," Ryan said, uncomfortable with the attention. "One match that everyone is talking about," Kate replied. "Even some of the senior instructors are reviewing the recording to study your tactics." When Ryan returned to his squad's dormitory, he found his squad mates waiting for him. Their attitudes had visibly shifted. "We need to talk," Krell said, his tone serious but lacking its usual hostility. Ryan braced himself, unsure what to expect. "Your tactics against Vorn were effective," Krell continued. "Squad 17 has been assigned a Level 5 combat simulation tomorrow. We want your input on strategy." Ryan blinked in surprise. Level 5 simulations were usually reserved for advanced cadets. "Commander Dres specifically requested our squad," Lyra explained, her white eyes glowing softly. "He wants to see if your performance was a fluke, or if humans truly have tactical advantages." That evening, the squad gathered around a holographic display of the upcoming simulation scenario. Ryan explained his approach to combat, using terrain, exploiting patterns, and turning an opponent's strengths into weaknesses. "It's not about being the strongest," Ryan explained. "It's about adaptation. Humans survived on Earth because we learned to adapt quickly. Your species lacks natural armor, enhanced strength, or telepathy," Zarks noted, all 6 arms moving as he spoke. "Yet you defeated a Dracarian in direct combat." "Different doesn't mean inferior," Ryan replied. "Just different." The next day, Squad 17 entered the simulation chamber. The Level 5 scenario was incredibly difficult, a hostage rescue in a mining colony during a radiation storm. The conditions negated many alien abilities. Lyra's telepathy was disrupted by radiation. Vex's crystalline form absorbed too much radiation to move quickly, and the confined spaces limited Krell's strength advantage. But these challenges played to human adaptability. Ryan's strategy focused on quick movement, creative use of mining equipment, and unpredictable attack patterns. The squad completed the simulation with the highest score ever recorded for that scenario. As they removed their helmets, they found Commander Dres waiting for them. "Impressive," he said, examining the score. "It seems human tactical thinking has certain advantages in specific scenarios." Later that week, Ryan noticed more human cadets in the Academy corridors, new transfers from other facilities. When he asked Kate about it, she smiled. "Your match with Vorn went viral across the Galactic Education Network. Applications from human candidates increased by 300%. Even Vorn's attitude had changed. He no longer glared at Ryan with hatred but watched him with careful study, as if trying to understand what he had missed. One evening, Ryan was summoned to a secure briefing room. When he arrived, he found Commander Dres speaking with an older human in an admiral's uniform. "Cadet Carter," Dres said, "this is Admiral Bennett. He has been monitoring your progress." The admiral studied Ryan with intense eyes. "Your performance has confirmed what some of us have long suspected. Humans bring a perspective that the Galactic Defense Forces need." "Sir?" Ryan asked, confused. "There's a reason human history in galactic records is restricted," Admiral Bennett said. "Long ago, humans were feared warriors in this galaxy, not because we were stronger or faster, but because we were unpredictable, adaptive, and refused to surrender." The Admiral activated a holographic display showing star systems Ryan didn't recognize. There is a conflict coming, Cadet Carter. One that will require exactly the kind of thinking you've demonstrated. The Admiral's expression was grave. Your time at this academy is just the beginning. Ryan looked at the stars swirling above them, realizing his victory over Vorn was part of something much larger than he had imagined. 3 months after Ryan's victory over Vorn, the Academy's routine was shattered by emergency alarms. All cadets were ordered to report to the main assembly hall immediately. "This is not a drill," Commander Drez announced as the cadets gathered. "We have received a distress signal from Outpost Gamma 9, a civilian mining colony in the Helios sector. They are under attack by unknown forces." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The academy was primarily a training facility, not a response unit. "The nearest defense fleet is 4 days away," Drez continued. "Advanced cadets will deploy immediately to assist with evacuation. This is a rescue mission only. You are not to engage hostiles unless absolutely necessary." Ryan's squad was among those selected for the mission. As they prepared for deployment, Ryan could feel the tension in his squad mates. This would be their first real-world operation. "It's just like the simulations," Ryan assured them as they boarded the transport ship. "We focus on civilian safety and follow protocols." Krell nodded grimly. "Except in simulations, there is no real death." The journey to Outpost Gamma 9 took 6 hours. Through the viewports, Ryan could see the mining colony, a cluster of dome structures on a small asteroid. Parts of the outpost were damaged, with smoke rising from several sections. Scans show approximately 200 civilians in the central dome. The mission commander reported. "Most internal communications are down. Teams will land at these designated points and guide civilians to evacuation transports." Ryan's squad was assigned to the eastern section of the outpost. As their shuttle landed, Ryan felt an unusual calm. All his training, all the simulations, this was what they had prepared him for. The reality of the situation hit them as soon as they entered the outpost. The corridors were filled with smoke. Emergency lights flashed, casting eerie shadows. Frightened civilians huddled in shelter areas, many injured. "Follow us," Krell told the civilians. "We're here to evacuate you." The evacuation proceeded smoothly at first. Ryan and his squad guided groups of miners toward the landing pads where transports waited. But halfway through their assignment, an explosion rocked the eastern sector. The path to their evacuation point was now blocked by debris. "Command, we need an alternate route," Zarks reported over the comm. "Eastern evacuation path is compromised." Static was the only response. The explosion had damaged their communications. "We're cut off," Lyra said, her telepathy struggling to reach through the interference. "I sense hostiles between us and the other academy teams." Ryan pulled up the outpost schematics on his datapad. "There's a maintenance tunnel that connects to the central dome. If we can reach it, we can join the main evacuation." "That tunnel runs directly through the section where the hostiles were detected," Vex pointed out, his crystalline form reflecting the emergency lights. Ryan looked at the 30 civilians with them, including children and injured miners. "We don't have a choice." Making a decision, Ryan split their group. "Lyra, take half the civilians through the secondary passage. It's longer but safer. Krell, Zarks, Vex, and I will escort the rest through the maintenance tunnel." As they moved through the narrow maintenance tunnel, Ryan's group encountered signs of the attackers, scorch marks on walls and destroyed equipment. They proceeded cautiously until they reached a junction where the tunnel widened. There they found themselves face to face with 3 armed attackers, insectoid beings with advanced weapons. The civilians gasped in fear. "Protect the civilians," Ryan ordered. "Defensive formation." In the narrow space, Krell's strength and Vex's durable form created a physical barrier. Zarks used 4 of his arms to shield injured civilians, while wielding his weapon with the remaining 2. Ryan assessed the situation rapidly. The attackers had superior position and firepower, but they didn't know the outpost layout like Ryan did. He noticed a control panel for the section's environmental systems. "When I give the signal, everyone close your eyes," Ryan whispered to his squad. With perfect timing, Ryan fired at the control panel. The section's emergency purge system activated, flooding the area with blinding decontamination light designed to kill microbes. The insectoid attackers shrieked, their compound eyes especially sensitive to the intense light. In those crucial seconds of confusion, Ryan's squad neutralized the threat. "Everyone move," Ryan shouted, leading the civilians past the junction toward the central dome. They reached the main evacuation point just as the last transport was preparing to leave. As they boarded, Ryan received an incoming transmission. It was Commander Dres. "Carter, your squad's battle tracker data is showing unprecedented scores for a real combat situation. What's your status?" "Mission accomplished, sir," Ryan replied, watching as the last civilian was safely aboard. "All civilians in our sector extracted. No casualties." The return to the academy was nothing like Ryan had imagined. As the transport ships landed, crowds of cadets and instructors gathered to welcome them. News of their successful evacuation mission had spread throughout the academy and beyond. Squad 17 emerged from their ship to find themselves treated as heroes. Other cadets, including many who had once mocked Ryan, now looked at him with open admiration. Even Vorn approached and offered a respectful nod. "Your tactics saved lives," Vorn said simply before walking away. The following day, Commander Dres called a special assembly. The large hall was filled with every cadet and instructor at the academy. The events at Outpost Gamma 9 were not just a rescue mission, Dres announced. They were a test, a real-world evaluation of our training methods and cadet preparedness. Murmurs filled the hall. Every squad performed admirably, Dres continued, but one squad's performance was exceptional. He activated a large holographic display showing detailed mission statistics. Squad 17 achieved the highest battle and rescue scores ever recorded in Academy history, simulation or real world. All eyes turned to Ryan and his squad mates. Their success was not due to superior strength or advanced technology, Dres said. It was due to adaptive tactics, creative problem-solving, and effective teamwork, qualities that Cadet Ryan Carter brought to his squad. Ryan felt uncomfortable under the spotlight but stood tall alongside his teammates. Admiral Bennett stepped forward. "For too long, we have underestimated humans in the galactic community. We focused on what they lacked: natural armor, enhanced strength, telepathy, rather than what they offered: adaptability, creativity, and remarkable tenacity." The Admiral activated another holographic display showing historical battle records. 300 years ago, humans fought alongside the Galactic Alliance against the Nexus Swarm. Despite being physically outmatched, human tactics proved decisive in several key battles. After the war, some species grew uncomfortable with humanity's potential and worked to limit human involvement in galactic defense. Ryan listened in amazement. This was the history that had been hidden from him. "That era ends today," Admiral Bennett declared. "We are implementing new training protocols based on the methods Squad 17 has demonstrated, combining the unique strengths of different species rather than forcing all cadets to train in the same way." After the assembly, Ryan found himself appointed as a tactical advisor to senior instructors. His battle scores were posted in the main hall as a standard for others to aspire to. The once skeptical alien cadets now sought his guidance on combat strategies. One evening, as Ryan returned to his dormitory, he found his squad mates waiting with Kate and several other human cadets. "We have something to show you," Lyra said, her eyes glowing warmly. They led Ryan to the simulator room, where a new program had been installed: Carter Tactical Protocols. His approaches to combat training had been formalized into an official academy curriculum. "Your methods will train the next generation of defense forces," Krell said, his voice carrying unexpected respect. Later that night, alone in the dormitory, Ryan took out his grandfather's compass. He remembered the day his grandfather gave it to him, along with words that now made sense. "Humans don't need to be the strongest to find their way among the stars. We just need to remember what makes us unique." At graduation 1 year later, Ryan stood at the top of his class. The ceremony was attended by representatives from across the galaxy, including many humans who had been inspired by his story to join the Academy. Commander Drez presented Ryan with his officer insignia. "When you first arrived, Cadet Carter, I thought you wouldn't last a week." Ryan smiled. "To be fair, sir, so did I. And now you'll be leading your own squadron." Drez handed Ryan an assignment datapad. "The Galactic Defense Council has a special mission for you, something that requires human perspective." As Ryan accepted the datapad, he saw the mission details. He would command a new type of mixed species unit designed to handle unpredictable threats. The unit's name caught his eye: Adaptive Response Team. Ryan looked at his teammates, now his fellow officers. They had come so far from the days when they had laughed at the human cadet. Now the entire galaxy was beginning to understand what humans could offer. His journey was just beginning.